Hello folks, my name is Mark, this is Why I Hate the World. How you guys doing? So, I made a video about the Mandela effect last couple weeks ago, and it got some responses from some people, and I'd like to address some of those responses. For those of you who don't know what the Mandela effect is, if you've never heard of it, it's the idea that people remember certain things being different than they actually are, and that's evidence of them coming from an alternate universe. In real life, it's just them remembering it wrong, right? But, they think that they're from an alternate universe. And it's named after the president of South Africa, who was Nelson Mandela. And people have a distinct memory. A lot of people apparently have a very distinct memory of him dying in prison, when in real life he actually survived, and something like 28 years in prison, and then was later elected the president of South Africa. And what it is that people are confusing him with Steve Biko, who was another South African leader. And because there was a movie in the 80s called Cry Freedom, all about Steve Biko. And that's what's happening. And so, that's basically what it is. People are just remembering stuff wrong and insisting that it means they came from an alternate reality when they're just wrong. Okay. So a couple of things that some people wanted me to address. Apparently there's some Bible verses that have been altered supposedly. And this came from one of the comments, and basically they told me to watch a video called Meat Nonsense July 2017. And I'll put a link to that video there so you can see it. And what it is, it's a lady reading Bible verses that use the word meat in apparently an incorrect way, so that it's not grammatically correct. So let me read some of the verses here for you. I'm just going to choose two that are really, small, because basically this video goes on for like 8 minutes about all these different instances of the word meat. But I'm just going to choose two Bible verses that are, for examples, right? First one, Matthew 3:8, bring forth therefore fruits meet for repentance. Mark 7:27, Jesus said unto her, let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it onto the dogs. This is in the King James Version of the Bible, by the way. Okay, so that sounds weird, that sounds funky, right? Until you realize that an alternate meaning for the word meat is to be proper, right? And then when you realize that, they actually make sense. Bring forth therefore fruits proper for repentance, right? Let the children first be filled, for it is not proper to take the children's bread and cast it to the dogs. So that's basically what it's saying. And you got to remember that the King James Version of the Bible is centuries old. That translation was first done in the year 1611, and it's been revised now and then, but it uses a lot of arcane language. Okay. And, other versions of the Bible, the New King, the American King James Version, or the New International Version and stuff like that, those have all been translated within the last 100 years. I mean, even, that one, the American King James, was 1999, all right? So it's like, nobody changed, these verses didn't change. They were always like that, okay? It's because that word means something else. It means to be proper also. And so it is grammatically correct. So there's no one, Satan is not changing Bible verses, all right? And that just kind of goes to show, it's like, there's a big religious component in all of this stuff too. Like if you watch that video, the Meat Nonsense video, it's like basically the lady is saying that this is signs of the end times, and it's like, I don't know, all of this conspiracy shit just sort of links together, but that's, a subject for a different video. Moving on, let's see, what else we got here. The Mona Lisa supposedly, didn't used to be smiling, and now she is. Right? Yeah, the Mona Lisa, alright, So here's the thing. There are multiple versions of the Mona Lisa. That is to say that the one painted by Leonardo da Vinci, you know, he had students who also painted that same painting, right? So there's actually multiple copies of it all over the place, all right? The original, painted by the original artist, always had that same smile on it, okay? It's like, it's always been that way, you know? And you can find books, you know, you can find representations of it in books going back 200 years to show that it's, you know, that it hasn't changed. It's like, it hasn't changed. You've seen alternate versions of it, okay, because alternate versions of it exist. And some of those don't have the same facial expression. All right. Another one, Looney Tunes versus Tunes, like Tunes versus Tons. Yeah, like I said before, that's an example of, you know, a lot of these things are pop culture references, you know, like I said this in the other video. Like another example the same guy gave me was the Honky Tonk Woman by the Rolling Stones, you know, and instead of Honky Tonk Woman with an A, it's Honky Tonk Woman, you know, like those are examples of small pop culture references that you don't really pay attention to, right? So for example, the Looney Tunes thing, right? When you see Looney Tunes, you watch them as a child, okay? And, you know, you're maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, and when it comes up, you don't understand that the word tunes can be spelled different ways. So, and you're probably not really paying attention to the intro anyway when, you know, when they have the intro music and all that, right? Because, I mean, I bet, you know, half the people out there didn't realize that it was called Merry Melodies or something like that. It wasn't even really called Looney Tunes for, like, you know, the first 50 years they were around. Because you don't notice these things because when you're watching it for the first time, you're a child. The same thing with the Bernstein Bears thing, okay? You're not paying attention to this stuff. You're a child. You're more interested in watching the cartoon, reading the funny book, you know, playing with the action figure, watching the movie, whatever, right? These are small details. These are all little tiny details that someone who's a child can easily misinterpret. You know, the way that tunes is spelled, right? The way that fruit is spelled in Fruit Loops. Okay, I mean, this is like just shit that, you know, normal people always miss, you know, whether or not the guy in Monopoly has a monocle or not. You know, it's like, you know why? You know why? Because you hear the word tunes when you're 5 years old and you think it's only spelled one way. And in real life, they spelled it the other way, you know. Or you think, you know, the Monopoly guy with a monocle, that's a stereotype that, you know, the stereotype of rich people with monocles and top hats, right? And so your mind instantly associates it with that, but in real life, they never had it. Okay. Some more, you know, what else? The where your organs are placed in your body. That's another one that a couple of people, not just the same guy, have told me, you know, like apparently your heart changed. No, it hasn't. Your heart has never changed. Your heart has always been right in the center. It's because it's behind the breastplate. You know, why do you think that evolved there in the first place? You know, what do you think your breastplate is for? Your breastplate is to protect your heart, you know. And you know why people think it moved? Because when you're a child, again, right, all this shit comes back to childhood memories. When you're a child and you do the Pledge of Allegiance, you put your left hand over your heart, right? And that's what they say. They say, put your left hand over your heart. So you do this, right? Because everybody stands like this, right? Not like that. They do this, okay? But your heart isn't here. It's here. It's always been like that, all right? Look up anatomical drawings going back hundreds of years. It's always been there, okay? So you know, reality didn't change. You're just incorrect. Like, here's another one, okay? New Zealand is in a different place, apparently, right? I actually tried to look that up. And I tried to look up, you know, why do people think New Zealand is in another place? And here's what I found. First off, there's a map in an episode of Tiny Toons Adventures, right? That apparently had New Zealand displayed in the wrong place, okay? That's the evidence for this. All right. You know, not like a map from like, you know, when New Zealand was discovered in the wrong place, right? Not like a satellite photo from, you know, the 70s or some shit showing New Zealand in the right place. A fucking like scene from a cartoon, once again showing that it's all because of childhood memories, that people are remembering something that, you know, is wrong, okay? And it's the episode where Zacko or Wacko or whatever does the song where he names all the countries, and then they show New Zealand in the wrong spot. And it's like, you know, here's the thing, okay? People who live in Australia and New Zealand, I bet they don't have this false memory, all right? I bet they always knew where their countries were in relation to each other and the rest of the world, all right? Because it's not, you know, all right, I mean, but getting back to my earlier point, think about, you know, what's more likely, all right? Because I've read some more up on this, and I've heard everything for, you know, possible explanations for this. I've heard everything from it just happened, you know, people just woke up one day in a new dimension, to it's Satan manipulating the past so that people won't believe in God anymore. I don't know how that would work, right? To the idea that a real science fiction-y kind of thing that came from 4chan apparently, where a guy said that he was a time traveler and that he came back in time, and what really happened was that there was a nuclear war and a bunch of scientists then created a quantum computer which allowed them somehow to like manipulate the past and change reality, and they did it to avoid this nuclear war and thus the extinction of human life. And these little, you know, the Bernstein Bears versus the Bernstein Bears or whatever, these are just little ripples going through reality. So, which one is more likely? All right. Seriously, folks, just sit down and think about it for half a second. Which one is more likely? Okay, reality is being manipulated by a quantum computer, or you just remembered the Bernstein Bears wrong. Which one is it? Come on, seriously, use your fucking brain. See, there's a problem. This is the problem with conspiracy theories, right? They'll believe any kind of weird-ass, wacky shit, except that which can be scientifically proven, right? That's the problem with these people. Here's the thing with conspiracy theory, right? It's not rational. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical because it's basically a religion, all right? And this whole thing with the fucking, you know, all of this like Mandela effect shit has just been folded into the greater conspiracy theory mythos, you know, all of that stuff together. You know, the NWO kind of aliens are running everything. You know, Obama wants to take away your guns and they're going to throw us in FEMA concentration camps. And really because it's all for Satan to come back and, you know, start the end times. It's all kind of folded together. And there's a lot of, like I was saying earlier, a lot of religious overtones, a lot of crossover between religious people, conservative Christians, white supremacists also jump in there, right? You know, with the whole Jews are running everything type thing, you know, and it's all just complete and total bullshit. And this is just another piece of the bullshit, you know. So just anyway, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. Just, you know, remember folks, what's more likely, all right? When you see this stuff, when you read about it, it's interesting to theorize about, you know, what's more likely, okay? Are you wrong or did you come from another dimension? Just to wrap it up here, don't believe every fucking thing you see on the internet or read someplace. And, you know, just remember that usually the simplest explanation is the true one, is the real one. Adios, folks.